The massive space station called Unity floated in the darkness near Earth's moon. Its walls were made of crystal that sparkled with light from faraway stars. Inside the giant meeting hall, hundreds of different alien creatures sat in their special chairs and pods. Some had tentacles, others had multiple eyes, and many looked nothing like humans at all. Ambassador Kai Park stood perfectly still in the center of the room. He was a tall Korean man with black hair and serious dark eyes. His face showed no emotion as he listened to the aliens speak. Next to him stood Commander Luna Kim, a woman in a military uniform. Her back was straight and her hands were clasped behind her back like a soldier. She barely moved, but if someone looked closely they might see her jaw muscles tighten just a little bit. Behind them stood 3 more humans. Dr. Alex Choi wore a simple white coat over his dark suit. He was younger than the others, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent. Admiral Hannah Lee had gray streaks in her black hair and scars on her hands from years of space battles. Trade Minister Gene Park carried a small computer tablet and looked like he would rather be anywhere else in the galaxy. At the front of the room, High Arbiter Velduz raised all 4 of his blue arms. He was the leader of the Galactic Council, and his species looked like giant insects with smooth skin. When he spoke, a small device around his neck changed his alien words into English that the humans could understand. "Humans have caused too many problems," Velduz said in a loud voice that echoed through the chamber. "Your people spread across space too fast. You take too many resources from planets. You build weapons and technology that are dangerous. This must stop right now." The other aliens in the room made various sounds of agreement. Some clicked their claws, others hummed through breathing holes, and a few flashed colored lights on their skin. They all seemed angry at the humans. Velduz continued talking. "We are the Galactic Council. We have 847 different species as members. We have kept peace in this galaxy for thousands of years. But humans are different. Humans do not follow the rules that keep everyone safe." Commander Luna Kim felt her heart beat faster, but she did not move. She had spent 20 years fighting in space wars to protect human colonies. She knew that many of these aliens had attacked human ships first, but the Council always blamed humanity for fighting back. "You humans have exactly 30 standard days to make changes," Velduz declared. "First, you must stop building new colonies outside your solar system. Second, you must give us all your faster-than-light spaceships and the technology to build them. Third, you must let Council inspectors watch everything your people do. If you refuse these demands, we will use force to make you obey." The chamber became completely quiet. All 847 species waited to hear what the humans would say. Many of them expected the humans to beg for mercy. Others thought the humans might try to negotiate for better terms. A few believed the humans would simply give up and surrender. Dr. Alex Choi wanted to speak up. He wanted to tell them about all the diseases his medical research had cured for alien species. He wanted to remind them that human technology had saved millions of lives across the galaxy. But he kept his mouth shut and waited. Admiral Hannah Lee remembered all the times human ships had rescued alien vessels from pirates and disasters. She thought about the young human soldiers who had died protecting alien colonies from attacks. Her hands clenched into fists, but she forced herself to remain calm. Trade Minister Gene Park knew the numbers. He knew that human trade routes carried food and supplies to dozens of alien worlds. He knew that without human cargo ships, some planets would face starvation within months. But he said nothing. Ambassador Kai Park took one step forward. Every alien eye, tentacle, and sensor in the room focused on him. He looked around the chamber slowly, making eye contact with as many representatives as possible. His face remained completely blank, showing no fear or anger. "We will consider your proposal," Kai said in a clear, steady voice. "You will have our answer in 30 days. That was all. No arguments, no pleading, no threats. Just a simple statement delivered in the most polite way possible." The aliens looked confused. They had expected a much longer response. Some whispered to each other in their strange languages. Others seemed disappointed that there would not be more drama. The 5 humans turned and walked toward the exit. Their footsteps echoed in the silent chamber. As they reached the door, Commander Luna Kim glanced back at the assembled aliens. For just a moment, a tiny smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. It was not a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile that appeared on the face of someone who knew a secret that others did not. None of the aliens noticed that smile. They were too busy discussing what the humans might do next. Most of them believed the humans would return in 30 days ready to surrender. After all, what choice did they have? The Council controlled most of the galaxy. Humans were just one small species among hundreds of others. But if any of the aliens had studied human history, they might have remembered something important. Throughout their entire existence, humans had never reacted well to ultimatums. When cornered, humans did not usually give up or run away. They did something else entirely. Something that often surprised their enemies. The chamber doors closed behind the human delegation with a soft hiss. The aliens continued their discussions, making plans for how to divide up human territory and technology once the surrender came. They had no idea what was about to happen. 30 days had passed since the meeting at Station Unity. The Galactic Council waited for humanity's answer, but no message came from Earth. No ambassador requested another meeting. No human ship approached any council world with a white flag of surrender. Instead, something much stranger began to happen. Admiral Hannah Lee stood on the command bridge of her massive warship called Soul's Pride. Through the big viewing window, she watched the last transport ship rise up from the surface of New Busan Colony. The planet below had been home to 3 million humans for over 20 years. Now it was completely empty. "Give me the final numbers," Admiral Lee said to the young officer beside her. Captain Jun Seo looked at his computer screen. "All people have been moved off the planet, Admiral. It took us exactly 17 hours. We left nothing behind. No machines, no computers, no weapons. We even took the food from the storage buildings." Admiral Lee nodded. This was happening on every human world across the galaxy. The evacuation plan had been prepared long ago, just in case something like this ever happened. Every human colony, every research station, every mining base was being emptied at the same time. On a planet called Kepler 442b, Dr. Alex Choi watched his team take apart the biggest medical research center in the galaxy. This place had created cures for diseases that killed millions of alien creatures every year. The laboratory computers held information that could save countless lives in the future. "Are you sure we should destroy all of this?" asked his assistant, Dr. Min Park. She looked sad as workers carried away the expensive medical equipment. "We are not destroying it," Dr. Choi replied calmly. "We are taking it with us. Every piece of data, every machine, every sample. The aliens wanted us gone, so we are leaving. But we are not leaving our knowledge behind." Dr. Choi had spent 15 years on this planet. He had made friends with alien scientists and had helped cure diseases that the Council's own doctors could not handle. But if the Council did not want human help anymore, they would not get it. Meanwhile, Trade Minister Gene Park was busy shutting down human cargo operations throughout the galaxy. Human transport ships carried food, medicine, and raw materials between hundreds of different worlds. These trade routes were like blood vessels that kept the galactic economy healthy. "Sir, the Zentari government is asking why we cancelled their grain deliveries," reported his aide, Ms. Sue Kim. "They say their people will starve without those shipments." Gene Park felt bad about this, but his orders were clear. Send them a polite message. Tell them that humans are no longer operating in Council space. They will need to find other suppliers. "But sir, there are no other suppliers. We were the only ones who could grow that type of grain in their climate." "That is not our problem anymore," Gene Park said quietly. He did not like being cruel, but the Council had made their choice. All across the galaxy, the same scene was happening. Human colonies that had existed for decades were suddenly empty. Space stations where humans worked alongside aliens were abandoned overnight. Trade ships that had carried goods between worlds for years simply disappeared. The evacuation was so fast and complete that it seemed impossible. 50 billion humans vanished from galactic civilization in just 3 days. They took everything with them: their technology, their knowledge, their resources, and their skills. When Council inspection teams finally arrived at the abandoned human colonies, they found ghost towns. The buildings were still there, but they were completely empty. The computer systems had been wiped clean. Even the power plants had been dismantled and removed. "This is incredible," said Inspector Caxton as he walked through the empty streets of New Seoul Colony. "They took everything. Even the street lights are gone." His partner, Inspector Velmin, checked her scanner. No life signs anywhere on the planet. No electronic signals. It is like humans were never here at all. But the most confusing part was that nobody knew where the humans had gone. Deep space monitoring stations detected huge energy readings moving toward the edge of the galaxy, but they were moving faster than any known ship could travel. When Council vessels tried to follow these signals, they quickly fell behind and lost track. Back at the Council chambers, the alien representatives were starting to panic. Economic Advisor Theclon, a creature that looked like a giant purple worm with arms, delivered bad news every day. "The situation is getting worse," Theclon reported. "Humans were involved in 17 major supply chains that keep our economy running. Without human cargo ships, some planets are not getting the food and medicine they need." "What about their medical research?" asked Counselor Rextal, whose species had been saved from a deadly plague by human doctors just 5 years earlier. Gone, Theclon replied sadly. All human medical facilities have been completely emptied. The quantum computers they used for drug research have disappeared. 3 major medical projects have stopped because we cannot replace their technology. High Arbiter Valdez listened to all of this bad news, but he was not worried. This is just a temporary problem, he announced to the council. Humans are stubborn, but they are not stupid. They know they cannot survive alone in empty space. When their supplies run out, they will come back and beg us to let them return. Then we can accept their surrender on our terms. Many of the other council members nodded in agreement. After all, how could one species survive without the support of an entire galactic civilization? Where could 50 billion humans possibly go? High Arbiter Valdez was very confident in his prediction. He believed that within a few months, human ambassadors would return to Station Unity with their heads bowed in defeat. He had no idea how wrong he was. 6 months had passed since humanity disappeared from the galaxy. The council chambers, which had once been filled with confident discussions about managing the human problem, now echoed with worried voices and desperate reports. High Arbiter Valdez sat in his tall chair, listening to the daily briefings that brought nothing but bad news. His 4 blue arms moved nervously as he tried to understand what was happening to his carefully ordered galaxy. The economic situation gets worse every day, reported financial advisor Kexlon, a small creature with 6 eyes and tentacles for hands. We are losing millions of credits each week. The trade routes that humans managed are falling apart. Some planets cannot get basic supplies anymore. Valdez had expected the humans to return within a few weeks. Surely they would realize they needed the Council's help to survive. But Ambassador Kai Park had never sent a single message. No human ship had been spotted anywhere in Council space. It was as if all 50 billion humans had simply vanished into thin air. What about communication attempts? Valdez asked. We have sent over 300 messages to Earth, replied Communications Director Yalseth. No response. We tried every frequency, every language, every diplomatic channel. The human home world is completely silent. But the silence was not the worst problem. Much worse things were starting to happen. Counselor Rextal of the Depth Swimmers stood up to give his report. His species lived underwater and his voice bubbled when he spoke. 14 of our patrol fleets have disappeared near the outer edge of the galaxy. These were not small ships. Each fleet had 20 vessels and over 5,000 crew members. Disappeared how? Demanded Valdez. They just vanished, Rextal replied. No distress calls. No wreckage. No signs of battle. One moment they were there, the next moment our sensors could not find them. It is like they never existed. The other council members made worried sounds. Some clicked their claws nervously, others changed colors on their skin to show fear. The medical situation was even more frightening. Dr. Alex Choi and his human research teams had created cures for diseases that the Council's own doctors could not understand. Without human medical knowledge, old sicknesses were coming back. Medical advisor Thren Cole delivered the health report with a shaking voice. 3 major plagues have started on outer colony worlds. The Crimson Fever has returned to the Vextar system. The mind-rot disease is spreading through the Kelpton colonies. We estimate that over 2 million people will die in the next month if we cannot find cures. What about our own medical research? Asked Valdez. Our doctors are trying, but they do not understand human medical technology. The quantum computers that Dr. Choi's team used are too advanced for us. We can barely turn them on, much less use them to develop new medicines. The military situation was just as bad. Commander Luna Kim had created new fighting tactics that made human forces incredibly effective in space battles. Every alien military academy had studied her strategies. Now, without her innovations, Council fleets felt weak and unprepared. Defense Minister Korthval gave the military briefing. Our fleet commanders report feeling outdated. Human tactical methods were 50 years ahead of anything we had developed. Without access to their military knowledge, our forces are vulnerable to any serious threat. Threat from whom? Valdez asked. The humans are gone. That is exactly the problem, Korthval replied. We do not know where they went or what they are doing. For all we know, they could be preparing to attack us. Then came the discovery that changed everything. A deep space probe called Vigilance was exploring the empty region between spiral arms of the galaxy. This area was known as the Void, a dark, cold space where no planets existed and no ships ever traveled. The probe was looking for new trade routes when its sensors detected something impossible. Lieutenant Zaxcon was monitoring the probe from Council headquarters when the readings came in. At first he thought his equipment was broken. The energy signatures were unlike anything in the database. "Sir, you need to see this," he called to his supervisor. The probe's cameras turned toward the energy source and began transmitting images. What they saw made everyone in the control room gasp in shock. Floating in the dark void between galaxies was a massive fleet of ships. But these were not like any vessels in Council records. They were enormous, each ship was larger than some small moons. Their hulls seemed to be made of materials that bent light around them, making them shimmer and change color as they moved. The ship designs were completely alien but somehow familiar at the same time. They had smooth curves and strange angles that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. Energy fields surrounded each vessel, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. But the most shocking sight was on the bridge of the lead ship. Through the viewing window, a human figure could be seen standing at a command console. The transmission was fuzzy, but the uniform was clearly recognizable. Captain Jun Seo stood calmly on the bridge of a ship that should not have existed. When he noticed the probe watching him, he turned toward the camera. His face was different somehow. His eyes seemed deeper, older, as if he had seen things that changed him forever. Captain Seo raised his right hand and gave a casual salute to the probe. It was a simple gesture, almost friendly. But there was something in his expression that made it seem like a warning. Then the transmission cut to static. In the council chambers, High Arbiter Vel'Thuz stared at the recorded images in complete disbelief. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Those ships, that technology, where did humans get such advanced vessels? How did they build a fleet like that in only 6 months?" But deep in his heart, Vel'Thuz was beginning to understand a terrible truth. Humanity had not simply run away to hide in the void. They had found something out there in the darkness between galaxies. Something that had given them power beyond anything the Council could imagine. The answer to his questions would terrify him more than he could possibly know. The morning started like any other day across the galaxy. Alien families woke up, went to work, and began their daily routines. Children played in parks while their parents worried about the economic problems that had been getting worse for months. Then someone looked up at the sky. On the planet Vextar Prime, a young Zentari child named Klix was playing in his backyard when he noticed something strange. A dark shape was floating in the sky above his house. It was not moving or making any sound. It just hung there like a black cloud. "Mother," Klix called out. "There is something in the sky." His mother, Yella, came outside and looked up. What she saw made her tentacles curl in fear. A massive ship hung silently above their city. It was unlike anything she had ever seen before. The hull seemed to be made of a dark material that reflected light in strange ways. When she tried to look directly at it, her eyes hurt and she felt dizzy. Similar scenes were happening on every council world throughout the galaxy. On water planets, underwater cities looked up through the ocean to see dark shapes blocking out the sun. On desert worlds, nomadic tribes pointed at the sky in wonder and terror. On advanced technological planets, scientists tried desperately to scan the mysterious vessels, but their instruments gave readings that made no sense. The ships were everywhere. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. They appeared over major cities, military bases, government buildings, and spaceports. They did not attack or send messages. They just watched. High Arbiter Vel'Thuz was in his private office when his assistant burst through the door without permission. "Sir, you must come to the command center immediately," the assistant said, his voice shaking with panic. Vel'Thuz hurried to the main control room where dozens of alien officers were shouting orders and staring at screens filled with red warning lights. Every sensor in the galaxy was detecting the same thing, unknown ships in orbit around every major world. "How many?" Vel'Thuz demanded. "We estimate over 3,000 vessels," replied Defense Minister Korthval. "They appeared at exactly the same time across 17 sectors. Our early warning systems detected nothing until they were already in position." "Are they attacking?" "No, sir. They are just waiting." On her flagship, Admiral Hannah Lee stood on a bridge that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. The walls curved in directions that should have been impossible, and control panels floated in the air without any visible support. Strange symbols glowed along the surfaces, writing in a language that was older than any civilization in the galaxy. But to Admiral Lee, everything felt perfectly normal. The technology responded to her thoughts before she even touched the controls. It was as if she had been born to command vessels like this. Communications Officer Min Lee approached her station. She was Admiral Lee's daughter, and like all the humans on the ship, she had changed during their time in the void. Her eyes now held flecks of silver light, and when she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that had not been there before. "Admiral, Council fleets are mobilizing in 17 different sectors," Min Li reported. "They are demanding that we identify ourselves and state our intentions." Admiral Li smiled. After 6 months of silence, it was time for humanity to speak again. "Open a channel to every communication frequency in the galaxy," she commanded. "I want every screen, every radio, every communication device to receive our signal." "Yes, Admiral. You are connected." Admiral Li stepped forward to face the main viewing screen. She knew that billions of alien beings across the galaxy were about to see her face. She wanted them to understand exactly what humanity had become. "I am Admiral Hannah Li of the Human Stellar Republic," she began. Her voice was calm but carried an authority that seemed to echo from vast distances. "6 months ago your council told us to leave your space. You gave us 30 days to surrender our technology and submit to your rule." Behind her, the camera showed the incredible bridge of her ship. Alien viewers across the galaxy stared in shock at the impossible technology surrounding the human admiral. "You expected us to beg for mercy," Admiral Li continued. "You thought we would crawl back to you, broken and desperate, willing to accept any terms you offered." On council worlds, crowds gathered around public screens to watch the broadcast. Many aliens recognized Admiral Li from old military records. She had been a skilled human commander, but the woman on the screen seemed different somehow. More confident. More powerful. "Instead, we chose a different path," the Admiral said. "We went into the dark spaces between galaxies, where your ships fear to travel. And there, in the ancient void, we found friends." The camera pulled back to show the vast fleet surrounding Admiral Li's flagship. The ships defied every law of physics that the Council understood. They seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, their hulls covered with symbols that glowed with inner light. "We found the predecessors," Admiral Li announced. "Beings who ruled this galaxy when your species were still learning to make fire. They withdrew to the dark matter realm eons ago, waiting for a younger race worthy of their knowledge." Across the galaxy, Council leaders felt a chill of absolute terror. The predecessors were mentioned in the oldest legends of every species. They were the creators of the first technologies, the builders of the first star maps, the teachers of the first civilizations. Most aliens believed they were just myths. "The predecessors remember when your council was nothing but scattered tribes fighting over scraps on primitive worlds," Admiral Li said. "They watched your species grow and develop. And they watched you become arrogant and controlling." Her expression became serious, almost sad. "Humanity has inherited their legacy. We have learned their sciences. We command their fleets. We speak for civilizations that span multiple galaxies." The transmission showed more of the human fleet. Ships that seemed to bend space around them. Vessels that appeared to be made of crystallized starlight. Technology that existed beyond the understanding of any council species. "The universe is far larger than your council ever imagined," Admiral Li concluded. "And you are no longer its masters." The broadcast ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. The great council chambers felt different today. The same crystal walls still sparkled with starlight, and the same floating platforms held representatives from 847 different species. But somehow the room seemed much smaller than it had 6 months ago. The massive doors at the entrance opened with a soft hiss. 3 figures walked through, moving with quiet confidence across the polished floor. Every alien eye in the chamber turned to watch them approach. Ambassador Kai Park led the group. He looked like the same Korean man who had stood in this room 6 months earlier, but everything about him had changed. His dark eyes now seemed to hold depths that went on forever, as if he had seen things that existed beyond normal understanding. When he moved, there was a strange quality to his steps, as if he was walking through more than just the 3 dimensions that other beings could see. Behind him walked Dr. Alex Choi. The doctor's white coat was the same, but his face showed knowledge that seemed impossible for any one person to possess. His eyes moved constantly, seeing patterns and connections that others could not detect. When he breathed, the air around him seemed to shimmer slightly. Commander Luna Kim followed them both. Her military uniform was crisp and proper, but her presence filled the room with an authority that made even the largest alien warriors feel small. She carried herself like someone who had learned to fight wars on a scale that spanned entire star systems. High Arbiter Velda sat in his tall chair at the front of the chamber. His 4 blue arms trembled slightly as he watched the humans approach. 6 months ago, he had been the most powerful being in the galaxy, commanding the respect and fear of almost 1,000 different species. Now he could barely look directly at the 3 humans walking toward him. The other council members made nervous sounds as the humans took their positions in the center of the room. Some aliens clicked their claws anxiously. Others changed colors on their skin to show worry and confusion. A few of the smaller species tried to hide behind the larger ones. Ambassador Kai Park stopped exactly where he had stood 6 months earlier. But this time he was not listening to threats and ultimatums. This time he was the one with power. 6 months ago, you demanded that humanity submit to your authority, Kai said. His voice sounded normal, but somehow it seemed to echo from places very far away. You told us to surrender our technology, abandon our colonies, and accept council oversight of our entire civilization. Veldas wanted to interrupt, but no words came out of his mouth. The human's presence seemed to fill the entire chamber. Instead of submitting, we chose to leave, Kai continued. We went into the dark spaces between galaxies, where your species have never dared to travel. And there, we discovered the truth about this universe. A large holographic display appeared behind the 3 humans. Instead of showing one galaxy, it displayed 18 different spiral formations of stars, each one filled with billions of worlds and countless civilizations. Dr. Alex Choi stepped forward. His voice was gentle, like a teacher explaining something to students. The beings you call the predecessors ruled all of these galaxies when your oldest species were just learning to make stone tools. They built the first spaceships, created the first star maps, and developed technologies that your science cannot even imagine. The predecessors withdrew from normal space millions of years ago, Dr. Choi explained. They moved into the dark matter realm, where they waited patiently for a younger species that could inherit their knowledge and continue their work. Commander Luna Kim spoke next. Her voice carried the confidence of someone who had commanded fleets in battles that stretched across multiple star systems. Humanity has proven worthy of their trust. We now possess their technologies, command their resources, and speak for the civilizations they left behind in 18 different galaxies. The alien representatives in the chamber made sounds of fear and amazement. This was beyond anything they had imagined possible. The humans had not just survived their exile from Council space, they had become something far more powerful than the Council itself. Ambassador Kai Park's expression was calm and matter-of-fact. He was not gloating or threatening. He was simply stating the new reality. The Galactic Council once governed 847 species in this single galaxy. Humanity now represents the interests of millions of civilizations spanning 18 galaxies. The holographic display showed fleets of impossible ships moving between the different galaxies. Each vessel was larger than anything in Council records, built from materials that seemed to exist in more dimensions than normal space allowed. We have resources you cannot comprehend, Kai continued. Technologies that violate your understanding of physics. Allies who remember when this galaxy was young and empty. We command powers that dwarf anything your council has ever possessed. High Arbiter Veldas finally found his voice, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. What do you want from us? Kai Park smiled. It was not a cruel smile or a kind smile. It was simply the expression of someone stating obvious facts. We want to establish new relationships based on equality and mutual respect. The age of council dominance over this galaxy is over. You can choose to work with us as partners, Dr. Choi added. We can share medical knowledge that will save billions of lives. Our technologies can solve problems that your scientists have struggled with for centuries. Or you can choose to oppose us, Commander Luna Kim said quietly. In which case you will discover just how much the balance of power has changed. The chamber fell completely silent. Every alien representative understood that they were witnessing a historic moment. The galaxy they had known for thousands of years was ending. A new age was beginning with humanity at its center. High Arbiter Veldas looked around at the other council members, seeing his own fear reflected in their faces. Finally, he turned back to the 3 humans standing before him. What are your terms? He asked. Ambassador Kai Park's smile grew slightly wider. We're prepared to discuss that. As equals. The negotiations that followed would reshape the entire galaxy. But one thing was already clear: humanity had returned to Council space, and nothing would ever be the same again.